In the movie making business, there are a lot of monsters, both on the screen and behind the scenes. This story is going to talk about both. This is It Belongs in Museum. I, of course, am Andrew, joined once again by Mark,
Salutations.
and we are telling you, dear listener, about Pulgasari, North Korea's only kaiju movie, and the bizarre circumstances for how it came to be.
Yeah, you've told me that North Korea made a kaiju movie. You have not given me details on it.
Which I love. This actually, we're doing these episodes out of order right now because originally the topic, hopefully, that we do next was supposed to come before this, but some of the props I ordered, which will only make sense when that episode airs, are not yet here. So we moved this one up, and it's such a fascinating story. Frankly, as soon as I finished researching it, I was itching to talk about it.
Yeah, it is becoming a trend that every time you come to me with like a podcast like episode ready, you're like, I think this is the most interesting story I've ever
Yeah,
heard.
the struggle is taking an interesting thing that I read about and making it into an interesting thing for someone else to listen to.
Yeah.
That. Hopefully, we're getting better at it. So, to begin, I should set the stage. North Korea and South Korea have recently become separate entities
Ah,
under different styles of rule after escaping Japanese control.
I was unaware that Korea was ever underneath Japanese control.
hmm Which lays the groundwork for a lot of the political turmoil that goes into the foundation of this story. So, and there will be many Korean names, a few Chinese names, potentially Japanese names, and I will be bad at pronouncing all of them, but I am doing my best. Shin Tae-seo, it's S-E-O, so I don't know if that's Sao or So, but I'm going to call him Shin to
Yeah.
be as good as possible. Was born in 1926. He became known as Shin Sang OK or Ok when his films began to finally attract quite a bit of acclaim, all on their own. He would later be known as Simon Sheen by Western audiences, and also known as the Prince of Korean cinema.
Okay.
He got his film start on the first Korean movie made after Japan's rule over the people had ended, called it Viva Freedom.
Okay.
And in 1954, he married South Korean film star Choi Yoon-hee.
Okay.
So you have like a director wife actress combination going now.
Ah, classic for like a film noirs type setup.
Yeah. And by the way, this is a story that I believe should be turned into a movie. There is a documentary about it, but there's not a movie. And we need a social network long short version of this.
Yeah, I think you had brought up the interview as sort of a similar like we're gonna show North
Yeah,
Korea.
even an interview style one. Frankly, there's so many Hollywood stories. It's ripe. Actually, I think Seth Rogen is making a the interview style movie about Hollywood right now. It,
Right, I saw something
I
about
think
that.
like
It
Martin
was
Scorsese's even gonna
yeah,
like
I think it
cameo
was
in
called
it.
like the studio or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that.
yeah. I'm kind of shocked about that. So the director and the star united on many films, so Shin would direct and his wife would often star.
Mm-hmm.
Shin's movies included The Western Princess, The Evil Knight, The House Guest, and My Mother. And The House Guest and My Mother was actually the first South Korean film submitted to the Film Academy of Motion Pictures for an award.
Kind of want to watch these movies. It's just
Yeah.
morbid curiosity.
Shin was known for completing multiple movies per year, and again
Oh,
became known as the Prince of Korean cinema. So he's rapid work, and you have to remember they don't have like an editing bay where you can like scrub through digital media. They're literally
oh,
cutting film.
right. They're sewing film back together and like it's a seamstress kind of thing at that point.
But all good things must come to an end. There, by the way, this story will have drama, spies, political intrigue, unrequited love. It's quite an adventure.
I mean, Godzilla has all of those.
In the 1970s, Shin was revealed to have had an affair and two kids with a younger actress named Oh Soo Mi, and his Shin's wife did sue him for
Oh,
divorce.
oh,
A little wordplay there for you.
yeah.
Um, both of their careers suffered because of this public issue, and on
Yeah.
top of that, Korea's economy started slumping, and Shin started speaking out against South Korea's leader,
Ah,
which, for the record, he was born in what was at this point North Korea.
uh,
That
okay.
doesn't mean he likes North Korea now, or at the time that we're
Yeah,
reading
I
about, but
think if we know anything, it's that just because you live in a country doesn't mean you like the ruler.
Exactly. And so they go through this public, messy divorce, and it hurts both of their careers, along with what Shin is saying.
Hmm.
And you'd think that would be the end of their relationship. However, like a Korean Ben Affleck, Shin would find a way back into his ex-wife's life, although under very strange circumstances.
Uh, I assume making a movie? Like,
Shin had been criticizing South Korea's government enough to be blacklisted from the film industry in South Korea, and his production company Shin Films was shuttered. The destitute, once loved director was alone and without an avenue to express his creative thoughts as South Korea's economy further fell and his ex wife looked for work in other countries. When Choi went abroad to find a job and missed her return flight, police questioned Shin in response to a potential kidnapping or murder.
okay, not a great start.
But he was eventually cleared, and soon they would discover what had happened to Choi.
Oh,
You see, Choi had received a letter to meet a Korean businessman in Hong Kong to form an acting school using her prowess as a phenomenal actress in Korean film.
uh,
This was in January of 1978.
okay.
She met the man, and they were so excited they retreated to his yacht,
Ah,
where she was drugged and smuggled to Macau and then to North Korea.
okay.
This movie was made under duress. So,
I like no,
Shin,
we're like about 5 minutes into a little over five
yeah.
minutes into the story, and we're already at kidnapping, divorce,
And
and
I, by the way, keeping the fact that this was a kidnapping story from you was not easy because I've been researching this for a
I
while.
mean, with North Korea, kidnapping is not unheard of.
The drama is only just beginning.
Oh,
Shin, the aforementioned Korean Ben Affleck, went looking for his missing wife.
are they still like technically married
No,
or?
they're no longer married.
Oh, so he's
He's literally Korean Ben Affleck. Like when the California fires happened, Ben Affleck drove in to the fires after he'd been evacuated to check on one of the Jennifers. I don't remember which one it was at this point.
mm,
He's literally Batman,
we
which is
should cast
crazy.
Ben Affleck as this Korean guy.
I think there may or may not be a few issues with that.
Yeah, he's too tall.
Anyway, Shin heard rumors that someone had seen Choi around Hong Kong, and in July he met a businessman claiming to have information.
Oh, a Hong Kong businessman.
The businessman, true to his words, helped Shin find his ex-wife
Oh no.
by kidnapping him on a boat and smuggling him to North Korea. When Choi arrived in North Korea months earlier, she was greeted by Kim Jong-il, the heir apparent to North Korea at the time. At the time, Kim Jong-il's father was still ruling.
Okay.
Kim had smuggled her here for a very specific purpose, a carnal purpose. Not
Oh,
for love, but for the talk of film, because he was a film bro. He had zero romantic interest in her and just wanted to talk to her about film.
wait. So he's not even talking about making a film.
No, he does want her to make a film, but he knows that he can't just make a film with just an actress. You see, Kimmy had wanted to make films, but said that his films lacked soul, so he gave up on it. But he still wanted North Korea to be known for great film, especially since South Korea now isn't making very many.
And this is a
Ridiculous, insane dictatorship.
yeah, a poaching of talent.
Yes. So he wanted to talk film. He asked her opinions on films, what made films appeal to her, did she like this? Basically, he was like asking her for letterboxd reviews, which is honestly just as bad as being a North Korean dictator by itself. So he's doubling down on just the worst person to be stuck in a room with. He wanted to crush South Korea's now fading movie scene. To do that, he needed an actress, a big star, but also he needed a director. And he knew that her ex-husband would come looking.
So he actually was planning on
He was
kidnapping.
hoping. He was
Okay.
hoping it would work out that way.
Because I was gonna say, like, if this is some fourth dimensional chess.
So, for 5 months between her capture and her ex-husband's capture, Kim asked her about movie opinions and treated her like a very well-guarded princess, like Bowser keeping Peach in a castle. She was literally told what to wear and what to eat every day, but was given a very nice gilded cage to live in.
Huh.
Shin, however, was not so lucky. When Shin arrived, Kimmy was very excited. He was like, "Yay, I've got the whole set now.
Yeah.
Make propaganda." And he was like, "And by the way, I don't want to just make propaganda. I want to make films that speak to an international audience because I'm an artiste.
Okay,
But also they should have a propaganda undertone."
so he's a dictator who thinks he's a filmmaker.
Yeah, so you can see the interview style insanity that I'm.
Yeah, this is
However, Shin told him to get stuffed,
that's fair.
to which Kimmy stuffed Shin into a work camp of imprisonment and starvation for 5 years.
Whoa. That was not a number I was expecting to throw out.
All the while he's in this labor camp, being beaten, starving, trying to escape twice, surviving largely on grass and rats that he kills. His wife has no idea he's come looking for her. He
Oh,
thinks he's given up on her.
oh my goodness.
She doesn't even know he's in the same country as her.
She has no idea that he's come
And-
looking for her.
And he doesn't know she's actually alive.
Oh,
He thinks they've killed her.
oh my goodness.
For 5 years. They're within miles of each other, not knowing it.
So when he's planning these escape attempts, he's like, I just need to get out because at this point,
Someone has to tell the story of what happened to us.
yes, like he has to, make people aware of the tragedy that's befallen. But
Mm-hmm.
he has no idea that within the same country,
Mm-hmm. And not an especially large one.
yeah.
So
holy-
then, 5 years and some change later, in 1983, Shin was taken from his gruesome labor camp to a luxurious guest house, where his son Choi Yoon-hee saw her now exhausted ex-husband and realized he had come to look for her all along, and he realized she was still alive. For the first time in almost 6 years since they'd last known each other were alive, and even longer since they'd seen each other because they'd been separated.
yeah, half a decade.
Yeah, more than.
Oh, and what happened?
Well, Kimmy told Shin and Choi to remarry because they would be happier together as they built North Korea's film empire. So both Shin and Choi pretended to convert to North Korean propaganda and remarried. The couple became the official face of North Korea's new movie age, but secretly continued to plan an escape.
Wait, do they escape? Do they get like?
I want to point out we haven't even gotten to the Kaiju movie yet.
Yeah, because screw that. It's not as interesting.
Kim upheld his end of the deal by giving them bigger budgets than South Korea. In fact, he was giving them blank checks.
Oh,
Yeah. So their North Korean films included a legitimate award-winning movie called Salt, and it was something that didn't just appeal to North Koreans, South Koreans. The international audience thought it was genuinely really well made, and people thought it was a return to form for both of the actor and director, and we're just a little confused why they were making films in North Korea now, but whatever. Because the rest of the world doesn't know that they're there under duress.
So does North Korea have the reputation?
I wasn't
Yet?
alive at the time. I couldn't tell. I mean, when you live there, yeah.
Okay, but
Everyone there knows what's happening, but you won't talk about it because, as you're about to find out,
So-
they have ears everywhere.
well, yeah, they have Hong Kong businessmen. So I'm guessing it's kind of a Scientology thing where if you bring them up, you're likely to get like, well, they're valid, or hey, I'm one of them, or they're absolutely insane.
My knowledge of Scientology is limited to Tom Cruise and Neopets.
Right.
Anyway.
Neopets.
You know, Neopets would make for some pretty good kaiju designs, especially the alien.
It'd also make for a good podcast episode.
Yeah. So Salt is really well regarded. He makes a couple more movies, a couple different genres. However, in 1985, and this is a movie we've actually watched together,
Oh,
Godzilla the Return makes waves. That's the one that leads into like the Mothra and Godzilla with Batra and all that. Like it's that continuity
okay. So
where they have like that weird mouse-shaped device that like they fly around and shoot Godzilla with. You remember like the hovercraft?
Right, that
Yeah.
one.
That one. So it's got I think that's the same continuity with the big flower with
Yeah.
monster thing. But yes, that continuity, it was really well received at the time. And so Kimmy the dictator that he was, well,
Mhm.
dictator in waiting, wanted to rival that. So he told Shin, why don't you make a North Korean Godzilla? We need a symbol that people immediately recognize as this is their Godzilla. And I want to point out that for a while, people who liked the old style of Godzilla movies didn't like the new style of Godzilla movies. And so it was a chance to win over sort of the curmudgeony,
Uh,
sort of like,
yeah.
I only like Christopher Reeve
Uh,
version of Kaiju fans at the time.
Another return to form, like
Hmm.
you were saying before.
So at this point, Shin and Shao have a luxury mansion and access to fine living in North Korea, which fills Shin with immense guilt because he has been in the labor camp and knows that's not how the rest of that country is living.
Oh,
Hmm.
wait. I assume she knows about what's.
I'm sure
They
he's told
they
her.
have to have caught each other up to
So
speed.
I didn't have a chance to read. There's a book that was written, and I'll tell you more about that because there are elements I don't want to spoil. And there is a documentary. But again, this was supposed to be something that we do in like a week or two, but again, the previous topic isn't quite ready yet. With it's written
Oh.
and researched, but we don't have the props for it, and I think that's vital to my part of the storytelling experience.
I mean, I have no clue what the topic is or the
I've
props.
kept you in the dark, and that makes me very happy. Like some sort of director that won't make movies for me. So, he's like, "Hey, we're treating you fine. We're treating you good. Make me a Godzilla equivalent." So uh, Shin comes up with Pulgasari, who is based on Korean mythology and a lost South Korean film, Bulgasari, which is also South Korea's first monster movie ever. So now we're going to talk about the movie element, and then we're going to come back to the political intrigue.
Okay.
So the Pulgasari, depending on how you pronounce it or spell it, was a bear, elephant, rhino, tiger, and bull hybrid that ate metal.
Wait, wasn't it made out of rice?
Yeah, it is.
Holy crap!
Is this a D&D thing you know?
No, it's a thing I was researching.
Okay, well, you have a leg up on this now. But yeah, in the original mythology, there's a couple different versions of it, but
Yeah,
largely, Buddhist monk was on the run and he took rice and he formed it into a figure, and that rice became an enormous kaiju that defended him. And then in some versions, the kaiju was killed. In other versions, it's still alive to come and protect us anytime.
because I think that it was like he started feeding it needles when it was very small, and then when it got bigger and bigger, and then arrows, like the flaming arrows, didn't even hurt it because it was just eating
So
so
you're
much.
kind of gonna know kind of part of the plot of the movie basically now.
I mean, we're gonna be honest, the movie seems like the boring part of this whole saga.
Well, it connects to an actor I really like, so I'm gonna follow this thread.
Please.
So the duo convinced Kim that they needed kaiju movie experts to make this because, yeah, they're talented, but they need real
Yeah.
veterans of the thing. So a Japanese crew was flown in from Toho Studios.
Oh, that's yeah,
Toho.
that's the Godzilla studios.
Yeah, that's the Godzilla people. So these people believed they were filming in China when they got on the plane. And then when the plane landed in North Korea, they were like, oh, this isn't China.
Yeah, different language.
And then they weren't allowed to leave the country until the movie was finished. However, they did get to stay in a luxury hotel.
Okay, well,
They were treated nicely because Kim wanted them to want to come back. And spoiler for later
that
on, one of them does want to come back.
Whoa, that's crazy. That
Yeah.
like they get kidnapped and the guy's like, that place was pretty nice.
So yeah, you'll see. So Kenpachi Satsumaru, my handwriting's kind of garbage here. But he was known for portraying Godzilla in the costume back in the day.
Mhm.
Actually plays Pulgasari. So it's like getting if you brought Brandon Routh back to be Superman again. It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
he's not the current guy anymore, but yeah, there's a bunch of people who like that
yeah,
dude.
but
Go for
he's
it.
propaganda dictator
Well,
Superman.
in a way, yes, but also in a way because Kim gave Shin
Oh,
final say on all of the movies.
which is that's insanely liberating for filmmakers. Like
But also,
nowadays.
it's like the unspoken is like, but don't make anything explicitly anti North Korea.
Yeah, don't make me angry.
So there has to be hidden layers to it.
Uh, and this guy is a quote unquote film buff.
So while making the movie, North Korean soldiers played the soldiers. And
Uh,
if they needed extra villagers, the soldiers playing soldiers would disappear and come back with a bunch of people.
uh,
The Toho film crew said that they were never short on extras for a scene, which added great depth, and they were allowed to really burn down villages in this setting.
holy crap.
Yeah. Um,
That so they actually are
so there's just North Korean like citizen prisoners
so
and
they
soldiers.
so they aren't are they building miniatures or are they just
I mean, yeah, there's miniature work done as well, but there's some really good shots of like a life-size Pulgasari foot. You can watch the whole thing for free on YouTube. There's no subtitles, so you're gonna be lost in the sauce. But learn Korean, I guess. That's my Duolingo. Get out of the way, Duo the Owl. I've got Pulgasari, the metal-eating kaiju.
that was made under extreme duress.
So one crew member, actually, of the Toho crew, was in his room at the hotel, and he complained about being sick of North Korean beer. He was alone.
Oh,
The next day, he went to his fridge, and it had been stocked with Japanese beer.
that's
It
terrifying.
really is. It's like the scariest version of nice.
It, it kind of reminds me of 1984. Like they start every day working out, and they hear on the television like following the workout routine. It's like that person's name is yelled out. It's like you're not trying hard enough because there's cameras in
Yeah.
every room of every building.
So the basic plot of this, it sounds like you actually kind of know the myth, is an imprisoned blacksmith is in its feudal like
Yeah,
Korea, and this blacksmith forms rice mash into a small figure, shapes it into a pulgasari from myth,
yeah.
and he enchants it with his dying breath to protect his daughter and the people.
I was unaware of the dying breath thing.
And he dies while imprisoned by a feudal dictator. So if you're, I'm in a prison, and my one wish is that the one person I still care about escapes this. If you can pick up on maybe where the director was coming from,
Ah, right.
and it's at this point Asia is being ruled by a cruel dictator, and the figure, which has been formed into rice, is found by the blacksmith's daughter and comes to life with her like love and everything. And it starts growing and it starts eating metal. And it keeps eating more and more metal. And it starts eating arrows. And then they put it in a big, he lets himself be captured in a big metal cage, which then he eats and grows even bigger. And then he kills the evil dictator. However, after he eats all the army's weapons and kills the big bad, he starts eating all of the villagers' farming equipment as well
Ah,
because he wants to eat. And so the only way to save the people from starvation is to make the kaiju go away, but nothing hurts him. However, the blacksmith's daughter believes that because it's bound to her with magic, she commits suicide, severing Pulgasari's magic and saving the kingdom. Now, what Kim was told is that this represents how they broke free from Japan's rule, but Pulgasari, aka South Korean, foreign interests in South Korean government, grew too quickly, and then were starving everyone. But in reality, it's just his imprisonment retold, and Kim is the Pulgasari who pretends to be saving you. But it's not explicitly any one thing. It's has to be layered and nuanced and kind of have deception layered into the story so that Kim
yeah.
doesn't pick up. You
This
have to fool the film, bro.
I I could just so easily see like because my mind thinks of the scene from V for Vendetta when the guy's telling about like, I have a theory about what's going to happen tomorrow.
Amazing scene.
Like that intercutting the film with the real life
Hmm.
with like a monologue, you could so easily make something like that work.
So, the critics, upon release, critics loved the film internationally. The Godzilla performer Satsuma said that portraying Pulgasari was the most memorable job of his career and cited a scene where he's in a cage and lit on fire as things explode around him as his favorite scene he's ever filmed in a monster movie. Because it was just, I guess North Korea was like, Michael Bay it up, brother.
Yeah, I mean they had a blank check.
Oh man, it's actually kind of shocking that Michael Bay's never been convinced to make a North Korean movie now that I say that out loud. It seems like if you told him
He
blank
loves
check and explosions,
he loves America
yeah,
too much.
he's way, I was just thinking he's too patriotic to sell out.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like an endearing trait, I guess.
Yeah.
But he also said that he explained his experience playing Pulgasari in his book titled "The North Korea That Godzilla Saw," which is a great title for a book.
Yeah.
He even offered to return to North Korea to make a sequel because he enjoyed making this movie so much.
That
Like
that
There's things more important than playing your role again, sir.
Also, you were kidnapped the first
Well,
time.
he was misled, but he was also treated like a prince, and you have to think that at this point in the economy, South Korean actors, Japanese actors, maybe they're like not so happy with the way they've been treated. However, that sequel that the actor wanted to make was not to be
That's a shame.
because after writing so many blank checks, North Korea needed money if they wanted to make more movies. So, Kim Jong il's next concept, which to be honest actually does sound pretty sick, was a biopic about Genghis Khan, which brings us back to the burgers.
Yeah, weirdly.
Yeah. Watch the burger episode if you have no idea what we're talking about. It doesn't take long to get to the Genghis Khan part.
Yeah.
Um, so Kimmy was like, you know what? We've been making movies a while now. Why don't you guys just go to Austria and secure funding? I'll send a couple of handlers, but like, we're tight. So don't worry about it.
So he let them
He
go.
sends Shin and Choi to Austria, Vienna specifically, to secure more funding because he felt they'd become friends. Like they're film bros. They've been in the trenches together of
They
cinema. They've reached acclaim together
did they Stockholm the guy that was trying to Stockholm them?
a little bit, but the drama is far from over. Due to this loosening of, but still there are handlers following them.
Yeah.
The couple knew this would be their one and only chance to escape. They had to take it, knowing that if they tried and failed, they would never see the light of day again.
Yeah, like they're talking work camps
We're
again.
talking disappear into a hole type of situation.
Oh.
You don't offend the very fragile emotions of a dictator and survive. So, when their handlers weren't paying attention, the duo rushed to a taxi, begging to be taken to a US embassy, and the taxi took off. Mind you, they have, they're in another place. They're saying they're from North Korea, but they're in Austria. How could that be? Like, that doesn't make any
And why do
sense.
they want to head to an American embassy?
Look,
Like, there's a lot of details that the movie script that we inevitably write for this is going to have to fill in.
but the North Korean handlers realized what was happening and followed suit after the taxi. Shin and Choi are rushed to the embassy and they get out and they start banging on the gates of the embassy. Let us in, let us in. We're North Korean defectors. We've been kidnapped. Please let us in. And of course, these people are like, what are you talking about? North Korea is nowhere near Austria. You're insane.
Yeah, that is a weird
But they
pace
were
to put.
begging and desperate. And as the North Korean handlers are approaching, the US embassy lets them in. But North Korea, they're still watching. They're still around the embassy. And if these people cannot prove that they really are victims, they won't be granted asylum.
Oh.
And as far as the world is concerned, they've been happily living a life of luxury in that mansion in North
Oh.
Korea. And if they can't prove it, they get kicked to the curb. They're going to be picked up by those handlers, and no one will ever see them again.
Oh. What happens?
They go in the embassy and they're like, prove to us that you were victims because we just called up North Korea to verify your story. And shock, no shock, but they said that you fled after taking money that the people there raised for the Genghis Khan movie, and that you've been living a life of luxury and are now embezzling from their country, and that we should send you back for like capital punishment.
That is a solid story to pitch.
Yeah, and
This guy is a good filmmaker.
well, unfortunately for him, Shin and Choi had been in the film game far longer. You see, they had secretly used film equipment to record Kim admitting to kidnapping them with the intent to infuse North Korea's film market with their power.
Holy crap!
With this undeniable evidence, the proof was clear they were granted asylum. They spent the next 3 years in protective custody living undercover before moving to California and telling their story to the public. And yet, there is another chapter to the story.
What, say more now.
Shin produced an American Pulgasari remake called Galgameth, and if you want to look up what that looks like, the design is very different
Yeah.
than Pulgasari.
Oh, it's very
in my opinion, he looks like Paul Gasari in a live action Ninja Turtle costume had a baby.
Yeah.
He's got some Ninja Turtle face.
Yeah.
So Shin produced that American remake called Galgameth, which was more child oriented and starred Doug Jones as the title monster Galgi, is what the little kid calls him in this story.
Yeah.
And
It definitely has that 90s physical suit
yeah,
look.
but it's the eyes and the mouth that really make me think it looks more like like you remember the live action Ninja Turtle movies, right? Where they have
Yeah.
practical costumes, like
Yeah.
Nightmare Fuel when they break down.
Yeah, and also
And this was the era of those movies. So here's the quick breakdown of that film, which diverges. Instead of Asia, it's medieval time. It's Europe.
uh-huh.
In this version, Prince Davin lives in the medieval times with King Henrik. Henrik is poisoned by the Black Knight, and in the king's final breaths, he gives his son a small statue, a family guardian who's brought to life by Davin's tears. Similarly, he grows, he defeats the evil, becomes the new danger, but in this version, Davin just uh, Davin survives, and Galgi is returned back to the size of the original statue with the idea that in the future, should evil arise, he would come back to fight. Kind of like that useless lion, was it Caesar or something from the Godzilla movie that did nothing to
Yeah.
help Godzilla at all in that fight? What a chump. He made Jet Jaguar look like he actually provided something to the plot.
These are deep kaiju movie
I don't think
cuts.
they're that deep. Well, maybe they are.
I mean, they're
Maybe
the 80s movies.
I think that was actually the 60s and 70s, I want to say.
Yeah, so that,
Um
holy crap, I see what you mean about the extras.
y-
I'm
y-
looking at like the
mhm. Shin and Choi remained married and safe until they both passed away. Shin died in 2006 with Choi dying in 2018. Hogasari still has rare figures that you can find to this day, and if you're
yeah,
watching this visually, I've already put some of them on the screen. And there's also bootleg distributions of the movie. And like I said before, you can just watch Paul Gasari on YouTube at this point because Kim Jong Il and of course later on Kim Jong Un, the rest of the Kims,
yeah.
disowned the film, scrubbed the North Korean titles from every copy they had, and then banned all of Shin's films in North Korea for all time. And it apparently left Kim in a deep uh, depression and despair, and he gave up on film for the rest of his life because his heart had been broken by the betrayal of those two filmmakers he kidnapped who didn't want to stay his friends, like Darla being upset the fish want to escape the tank.
Wow.
Look, my brain is wired
Yeah, but
weirdly.
it's very accurate
And I think this entire story proves once again that reality is stranger than fiction.
and shockingly more interesting because like the plot of Pulgasari and
And Bulgasari and
yeah,
Galgameth
yeah,
are
like they're all
they're the fries with the burger you get to kind
yeah,
of call back to our last episode.
yeah. Holy cow! Like
I told you
this
it's a roller coaster. It's got drama,
this
espionage,
belongs
intrigue.
in a museum, but it also definitely belongs in a movie theater near you.
Yes, 100%. Not a streaming exclusive either.
Oh yeah. I don't know who you'd even cast as
I
the
mean, yeah, you'd
leads.
have to find really good Korean actors
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Who do you get to make the movie?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I feel like
Ah, man,
f-
that
it's a tough call. It'd be
that
cool if you got Doug Jones to come back in some way. It's like the
oh yeah.
remaining actor who's been involved in this movie franchise
Yeah.
to like play a monster or like the fake businessman in Hong Kong that's like fooling people because they never
Yeah.
say what type of who he was. I assume he was North Korean, but I don't know. They could
Yeah.
have kidnapped an American or a British guy before that, for all we know. They were
Yeah.
big on espionage.
Yeah. I mean,
How's that for drama?
it's insane. And it's like I'm even just like I'm bewildered and my mind is just like teeming with the ideas of like, well, what do you call the movie? What do you call it? Like this is such yeah, you definitely need to make this a movie. You need to enjoy this and to just appreciate how awesome it is.
You either need like a an air or social network style telling of the story that keeps as much intact as possible, or a loose approximation of it set in modern day, even if you want to. That's kind of the interview style,
Yeah.
where it's just kind of like meant to be fun, But then at the end, you're like, by the way, this is kind of inspired by real life people who were kidnapped, and you should learn about them.
Yeah,
This is the story that you
this,
got here.
this is crazy.
And originally, this was going to come out like right on like April Fool's Day, which would have been like, whoa, my gosh, wow, this is such a crazy story. Is this real? But because our episodes are now going in a different order due to it's what happens when you order things internationally. They kind of take a while to ship. It's not like
Yeah,
the guy running our country is helping international packages get here any sooner. So this is going to go up first, and then the surprise episode that I mean they'll know by the time the title comes up
yeah.
will
I
come out on.
they will theoretically have watched this or watched it beforehand, or like are they were because we're filming them in this order,
No, well,
right?
I'm releasing them in the same order we filmed them
Oh,
because I don't know if all the things will arrive in time. So I'm just gonna edit this. This will come out after the burger episode and the mystery episode for you. The episode they'll learn about when they look at the title will
ah,
come out right around April. It'll be April 2nd, I think, technically, because we do these every Wednesday.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, which is a reference to Woden's Day, Odin, because I always think it's cool that we have days to this day that are still named after Norse mythology. I just think it's nifty. And who doesn't need a interesting pick me up in the middle of the week? You know, everyone complains about Monday, but honestly, Wednesday is like I'm only halfway through the week. I can provide a little bit of wind in your sails.
yeah,
So this is the story of Bulgasari, Pulgasari, Galgameth, and the people who made it. It is the lost South Korean film, this insane North Korean film, and the weird story about how this entire thing came to be, and then an Americanization of it.
yeah. Like
Wild